the policy question. How much money are you thinking of giving people in Greenland to get them on board with a possible U.S. takeover?
I'm not talking about money for Greenland yet. I might talk about that. But right now, we are going to do something on Greenland, whether they like it or not, because if we don't do it, Russia or China will take over Greenland, and we're not going to have Russia or China as a neighbor. I would like to make a deal, the easy way, but if we don't do it the easy way, we're going to do it the hard way.
So if you haven't seen that clip before, yeah, it's pretty rough. And chances are that's not the only clip you've seen. You might have seen this text message that just came out a couple days ago from Trump about the Nobel Peace Prize. Oh, you could have seen one of the various other interview clips that he's done. You could have even seen what Stephen Miller's been saying, or what even his own wife has been tweeting. But all of this talk about Greenland, and there's a lot, has kind of led me to just the same old question that I think a lot of other people are asking, which is, why? So to understand where we are in the current context of Greenland, it's important to go back and look at some of the history. So right now, Greenland is still under the technical colonial control of Denmark and has been since about the 1920s. And it's kind of an interesting system, right? Because Greenland has the ability to vote for independence. Like Denmark has, for a couple decades now, given them that ability. But there's many complex economic and political ties to Denmark that Greenlanders just aren't necessarily willing to give up just yet. It does seem like, according to a couple different studies, that the overwhelming consensus amongst population of Greenland is that they would like to move towards independence from Denmark eventually. But right now, things in Greenland aren't that bad. In fact, there's things such as the 5-day work week, universal school, healthcare, all that type of stuff, right? And that's all stuff that's being funded by Denmark. Now, contrary to what Trump has been saying, there doesn't seem to be much interest from China nor Russia on the actual land of Greenland. Now, the island could technically play a strategic role in military actions going forward. However, that seems pretty unlikely. Even if it did, the United States has full authority from Denmark and Greenland themselves to expand military power and bases on the island. It's been stated verbatim. So if you're making the argument that we need it as a strategic military place, we already have access to that land. And in fact, you could argue that the access is strong because we have NATO access. And so not only do we have access to that land with our military bases, so does Denmark, and so do our NATO allies. And the key word there is obviously allies, right? So if Denmark's the one who's been kind of guiding Greenland along for the past couple of years, where did the U.S. come into play? And why is Trump suddenly so keen on military action? Believe it or not, U.S. involvement, even interest in Greenland, wasn't really triggered until World War II, specifically in the early 1940s. From what I've read, it seemed like the concern was that Greenland's strategic territory and location, serving as a barrier between the U.S. and that whole side of the world, could potentially be used as a threat. And so back in the 40s, the U.S. struck deals with Greenland and Denmark and has since had military bases and access to the land. And obviously those relations have continued till now. And Trump's interest in Greenland in particular isn't new. It's something he talked about in his first term and something that he talked a lot about during campaign season. But I think a lot of us, myself included, might have written that off as more joking or less serious than the actions he's currently taking. And just to posit an argument in here, I think if you're one of the people who's saying, oh, he would, he's all talk, he's not actually going to make any action here, I would have been on agreement until Venezuela, until the capture of Nicolas Maduro. Trump has shown pretty explicitly at this point that he's not afraid to take military action in foreign countries, and specifically Greenland would be a much easier operation. Greenland themselves doesn't even really have a military, so Trump could probably take Greenland. Like I said, I don't know if that's ethically just. In fact, I myself think definitely not, and I think the people of Greenland tend to agree. But that said, Trump could take Greenland, militarily at least, and it seems like he might. Recent talks have only escalated, and the general vibe in the world is that people are getting ready. So I wanted to talk briefly about the effects of the actual situation on the people of Greenland. It's easy when you look at these world politics to kind of get focused on the policy of it all, right? But you have to remember that there are people who live in Greenland who are at the center of all of this, and it's hitting them, and it's hitting them hard.
Yeah, we are not used to see military in Greenland, but recently before the day, yesterday, you can see more military in nuclear now from the NATO allies. That's not comfortable here as a resident local in Greenland. But I hope we can stay with Denmark. We have been relying on Denmark always since the 1700, now in almost 300 years. We have no problem with the Danes. We have families, we have everything. We have free education, free healthcare. We get paid to go to school, and we have nothing against the Danes.
And I wanted to ask about, I know that I saw the leadership in Greenland was talking about that if they had to choose, that they would choose Denmark over the U.S. and the Danes. Is that, do you think, something that the people agree with in Greenland as well?
Yes, as we stand now, because if the U.S. invade us, we have not chance to be independent, just like in Inuit people in Alaska. But when we are in the Danes, the Kingdom of Denmark, we have a self-government. We have to change to be independent, and we have always been working to be independent. We are just our own, and we live in peace in Greenland. Then the world are watching us now, and they has been stressing, but we have terrain, but we don't know how we should prepare, or we don't know anything. What should we do? We have not military in Greenland. We don't have anything. We have been peaceful people since we are here in Greenland.
Interestingly, it seems like NATO doesn't even really have any stipulations about one NATO country invading another. There's never any plans for what might happen if one country decides to take that action. And you can see that directly in the NATO stipulations. There's all kind of policy about a NATO country invading an external country, but a NATO country invading another would be a completely new precedent, and there's honestly no legislation about it. Top sources have indicated that even if Trump did take Greenland, there would probably be little to no pushback, especially militarily. And that's not really a surprise. I mean, the U.S. is still a global superpower. Even though we've seen our currency and economy on the decline, our military standings are pretty much unrivaled. And so if Trump decided to take action in Greenland, it's more than likely he would be unopposed in that action. Now, there's a chance that upon taking that action, NATO ties wouldn't even really change. That said, there is a chance that it could pretty much unwind NATO from its core, as the U.S. is one of NATO's strongest, if not the most important part of the whole connection. Okay, and we got to talk about money, right? And Trump himself has commented on this, as you saw in the opening clip, right? A lot of people are saying we should just buy Greenland, especially Trump supporters. People on that side say, why take military action? We can just buy the land. There's a couple reasons that would never work. Firstly, it's not for sale. Even if we put up the price, Denmark has made it clear, and so have the people of Greenland, that neither of them are wanting nor willing to become U.S. subjects, U.S. citizens. And on top of that, Trump himself has said that a lease just wouldn't cut it. He wants full ownership of the land. So money is kind of out of the picture. Whatever comes next is going to be either military or nothing at all. It's kind of an all or nothing situation.
We are not for sale. Mm-hmm. Greenland is not for sale. There's one person who just like asked our journalist, do you know about the Greenlandic people? He said no. How about our underground geology? Yes, there is no respect to the people in Greenland. Only what is underneath us. You have seen my YouTube. We was hunting. We don't care about the underneath us. We want to be free, and and enter the NATO in Greenland. I hope the audience and the people who listen now listen to the people of Greenland, what they have to do. We have our own democratic, what do you call it, elections, with no one from the outside. So be respectful, listen to the Greenlandic people. We want to be our own. And I hope the US will understand that.
So yeah, Denmark has put boots on the ground in Greenland. Clearly, they're preparing. It's unclear whether or not we actually are, or if Trump is just saying that we are. To me, my best predictions say that we probably will. And that's incredibly disheartening, not just to me, but to the people of Greenland who will be impacted if we do take military action. It would be unprecedented, it would be dangerous, and potentially catastrophic for the future of our country's standing in the whole world alliance thing, which, if you haven't noticed, is kind of important. So yeah, that's kind of all I have for today's video. Pretty grim stuff if you really think about it, and obviously my conversation with Paulo really indicated that to me, in the sense that the people of Greenland are kind of in the center of all of this, and it's shaking them to their foundation. It's not great, and it's obviously not something that they're interested in. If you found this video interesting, I'd greatly appreciate it if you stuck around. Next week we're going to be talking about U.S. propaganda, specifically social media usage and how it relates to past propaganda from old regimes. Some words I can't say, right? Anyway, if you're interested in that, stick around. That'll be coming out next week. And then after that, we have a video on Kalshi and sports betting and prediction markets. Thank you.